Oh,
Folks over here. Thanks, friends, for joining us online. We're going to get started in just a moment. I don't think anybody's sitting there.
Not the waiting room people.
Yeah, I thought they were already in. Yes. So I was talking to no one just now.
I mean, I'd like to think I'm your friend.
You are one of my favorite people, Theodora.
Okay, I'm gonna hit admit.
I muted. Looks like we muted up top.
It's like a weird, complicated situation.
I love that our Zoom name is secondary, like that we have multiple and we're just like, we're the secondary Zoom. It's just like what it is.
Oh wait, John Michael, we're good?
Yeah.
Good now? Okay, great. All right, we can get started.
Okay, hopefully sound is good. Welcome and thank you for joining us virtually or in person. Maybe especially in person. This is very nice to be here with you all. My name is Esteban. I'm the Executive Director for the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops. I'm also the current board chair for National Cooperative Business Association, NCBA-CLUSA, which is where we are currently being hosted today. So I'm kind of welcoming you on behalf of both organizations. Both organizations are trade associations, 501c6s. For NCBA-CLUSA, we are a cross-sector trade association representing the entire community of cooperatives and credit unions all across the country. We might talk about this a little bit, but that really means we're representing about 1 in 3 Americans who are members either of credit unions or consumer co-ops, housing co-ops, rural electric co-ops, marketing co-ops, different kinds of cooperatives, up to and including worker co-ops. And so for my day job with the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops, we advance and support and advocate and do technical assistance and education for worker-owned cooperatives all around the country. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about really more on the advocacy side of what that work means and what some of the opportunities are to collaborate. And I'm gonna maybe turn this over to our Senior Director of Government Relations, Mo Mangklang, who's part of the panel and helping to moderate it, and then we'll have everyone on the panel introduce themselves. These are all dear friends, colleagues, leaders, who I have the pleasure of working with in various capacities. So we'll get to hear from them in a moment. And is there anything else I'm supposed to say? Cool, awesome, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. My name is Mo Mangklang. I am the Senior Director of Government Relations at the Federation. Just a quick overview today. This is your welcome. We're going to hear it shortly from Aaliyah Ned, Director of Government Relations at the National Cooperative Business Association. And then we're going to have our esteemed panelists come and just like talk to us about the opportunities and the stakes right now. So without further ado, I actually just want to get over to Aaliyah Ned to just talk about like the landscape of federal legislation right now, like in this particular moment. What are we looking at in terms of like cooperative legislation?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mo, and to everybody in the room and online. My name is Aaliyah Ned, and I'm Director of Government Relations here at NCBA-CLUSA, doing cross-sector advocacy work for all of the entities that Esteban named, and to support, promote, and defend cooperative businesses. And currently, there's a lot happening in Congress. We just started a new Congress. And there is a big tax package that is critically important for cooperatives, as the cooperative tax code recognizes that as businesses owned and controlled by member owners, we return that value to the member owners of cooperatives. And that is why we have the tax treatment that we do. So defending that tax status is a long-standing priority that we've had in partnership with the Federation, and also some new pieces of legislation to build on the momentum of the last few years, particularly the Main Street Employee Ownership Act of 2018, that would help provide access to capital for cooperatives by removing a burdensome requirement that doesn't align with our shared ownership model. So having access to that federal support is exciting, and also new legislation that is pending to support investment in cooperatives, which I know we'll talk about today. And I'm excited to turn it over to our panelists, but do ask that folks check out our co-op impact report to learn more about how we can leverage and promote the cooperative business model in our messaging. And I will turn it back to Omen Kling, our panelists.
Thank you so much, Aaliyah. Thank you so much. And again, just thanks to NCBA CLUSA for hosting this and sponsoring this webinar. We really would not be able to do any amount of the advocacy work that we do without the partnership of NCBA. So before we get to our panelists, which I'm really excited about, I'm actually going to share a little message. So as Aaliyah said, there are a few different pieces of legislation that we're trying to advance right now in support of co-ops. One of them is a vehicle to open up investment opportunities for worker ownership. So we're going to share a little message from Senator Van Hollen from Maryland, just talking a little bit about that.
Hi, I'm Chris Van Hollen, and I represent the great state of Maryland in the United States Senate. And I'm grateful to the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives and the National Cooperative Business Association for the chance to greet you today. Employee-owned businesses are living proof of a simple, powerful principle. When we empower workers, everyone wins. The results speak for themselves in terms of productivity, resilience, and worker retention. I'm a longtime supporter of worker ownership, and I'm soon looking forward to reintroducing bipartisan legislation that provides a federal government backstop to financially support the creation of more employee-owned businesses. Together, we can help our workers secure the dignity and prosperity they deserve and help businesses thrive in this country. Thank you for all your advocacy and moving us in that direction. Take care.
All right. Just a few remarks. I just want to illustrate for folks the support that we have on both sides of the aisle for worker ownership. I know a lot is fluid right now, but in this moment, there is also a lot of opportunity. And I think it's about us collectively understanding how to take advantage of the opportunities that are right in front of us and making sure that we are organized, we are connected, and we are ready to jump in and wave the cooperative banner at every moment that we are able to. I'm really excited about this panel of guests that I have here today. I'm gonna actually let you all introduce yourselves because I always feel that's best. For folks at home, I'll leave this up for a minute so you can get a really good look at their beautiful faces. But I'll start here at Casey. Let's just a little bit about yourself and the organization that you're representing, and then we'll get into conversation.
Great. Well, as a resident of Maryland, it was really nice to see my own senator deliver that message. So that was great. My name's Casey Fannin. I'm the president and CEO of National Cooperative Bank. National Cooperative Bank is cooperatively owned. We're owned by 3,400 co-ops across the country. We've been around since 1978. We serve co-ops across sector in all 50 states. And just a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Casey, hey everybody, I'm Kim Britt. I sit on the board of the Federation, of course, as well as I'm proud co-owner of Shop Fresh Kitchen in Chicago, Illinois, as well as Jumpstart Housing Cooperative in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm excited to be here.
Sorry. Hello, everybody. Ellen Vera from Co-op Cincy, co-founder, co-director, also on the board of the Federation. We represent a network of 14 cooperative businesses across sectors. So everything from farming to construction to tech and childcare and home health care and beyond. And I'm also excited to be here. You know, co-ops are so important for this time right now in our history of being that proactive way to build the world we all want to see. And I agree with Mo, there's lots of opportunities and lots of challenges that we're facing right now. So excited to dig in.
Thank you all for being here. And just so folks know, you know, this particular constellation of panelists, we brought them here because I think when I think about how to talk about co-ops, regardless of who we're talking to, but especially with people who are newer to the co-op sector. These are three of the people that I look to most for, like, how do you talk about co-ops? What is it about this business model that is like so effective and such a great solution and a tool as we explore ways to provide wealth building opportunities for people from all different geographies, all different perspectives. So I learned a lot from each of these people every time that I talk to them. So I really wanted to, like, set you up, just listen to kind of the words that they're using. And as we go on this road of trying to articulate the co-op message, especially in the International Year of the Cooperative, it's so important that we, like, lean on each other for like the most effective language to use when we're talking about this work. So we're gonna just dive right in. So I'm gonna start with Ellen and Casey. So you've both seen federal dollars put into action in different ways. Wondering if you can talk a little bit about the programs that you've seen cooperatives engage with, and the successes that you've seen like through that support. So like, how have we already seen co-ops like grow and expand through federal dollars?
Yeah, pick it up. In Co-op Cincy's network, we've been fortunate to work with several different federal funding programs. One that we are working on very closely with right now is with the Department of Labor, focusing on their critical job sector training grant. And so we've been working with green construction businesses, both cooperative and small businesses that are led by historically under-resourced individuals, and really helping them to navigate as this sector in our economy is growing. How can they take the most advantage of that? How can they grow their businesses and make the best jobs possible? So we brought together a group of over 40 different community partners. We have a group of 10 businesses that are forming a shared services cooperative to really be able to go and get into larger jobs, be able to kind of cut costs and just do it in a better way so then they can put more towards their workers. So that's one specifically that we are working very closely with right now. We also have funding through the Health and Human Services, working directly with refugees. So we've been doing this for 6 years now, where we work with refugees that are newly coming to our country, are escaping really horrible situations and trying to build a new life for themselves. And a piece of that is being able to have jobs, right? Being able to be proactive, participatory folks in our community, right? Who are trying to build our community alongside us. So we train them alongside our farming cooperative in co-op business development and in agriculture. And many of them are, they're coming from agricultural backgrounds, so they know that piece, but they've never done it here in this climate under these types of conditions. So those are two programs that we are very much actively doing, and our co-ops are taking advantage of right now. We've also worked with the USDA at different times for some of the funding that we do with food as well. So
I would say for NCB, we've utilized the SBA program a few years ago when they allowed co-ops to qualify for the SBA. We tried to pave the way in making loans to cooperatives through the 7A loan program. We've done 2 consumer food cooperatives, both in the state of Virginia, one in Lovettsville, one in Fredericksburg. And, I think that startup capital, the 7A program is such a powerful tool for new business startups. So the door is open for cooperatives. I think we need to open it wider. And so there were some program changes I think we'll talk about a little later that I think would really open up a big pool of capital to co-ops as they both start and grow for existing co-ops. We also, we utilize Fannie Mae quite a bit for housing. We use Fannie Mae products for, multifamily housing co-ops across the country, market rate, limited equity, senior housing. And so that they have a vast array of products and lots of dollars to support those programs. And so we've utilized those programs pretty extensively. We were named by Fannie Mae as a pilot lender, the only pilot lender for resident-owned communities. So we partnered with Rock USA, which is the very impactful manufactured housing co-op developer. And we've done one transaction with Fannie Mae under that pilot program. We have another in the works. So and I will note that the Fannie Mae programs and the SBA programs are sort of self-funding, right? They have guarantee fees, and I think that speaks to why both, Fannie Mae and SBA are so successful, right? It's not dependent on, votes to fund certain programs, but they're time-tested, proven businesses that are generally, not entirely, but self-funded through the fees of of the borrowing community itself. So I think utilizing those two programs and others are been a key to success.
Could you actually dig a little bit more into the 7A loan program? So for folks are not aware, just to like help people understand, like, why is it that co-ops are a little bit othered within the SBA program?
Great question. So although co-ops can qualify for a 7A loan, there is a program requirement under the SBA programs for a personal guarantee. And if the three of us were business partners in any type of business, we would provide a personal guarantee. But in either a worker cooperative or a consumer cooperative, any type of cooperative, there is usually a pretty broad number of either worker owners or consumer owners, and it often doesn't make sense. It doesn't make practical sense for any of those individuals to provide a personal guarantee. So we have been creative in working with the SBA on a handful of SBA 7A loans we've done for consumer cooperatives, but frankly, it's a little inefficient. We've had to create our borrowers have had to create an extra entity that provides a guarantee, not the most effective use of capital. So I think that what we've been working with NCBA on is, and others across the space and the ecosystem, is to, drop the requirement of a personal guarantee for SBA loans. It doesn't make practical sense in our opinion. I think that if it was just the three of us, in a small business transaction, there's probably limited value that provides the loan. Whereas you have a broad base of owners, whether it be worker, consumer, whatnot, you've got this horizontal base that provides support for the business and commitment to the business. And co-ops have proven very effective over time in being resilient during difficult times. So it's that personal guarantee requirement that sort of, helps us a little bit. And I think we've been creative, but again, tapping into these broad programs that have been so successful over decades, we want co-ops to have greater access.
Thanks for unpacking that, Casey. Kim, as our resident, actual business owner, so you've been there, from the beginning, right? From Shy Fresh.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the challenges of kind of getting that startup capital and keeping the doors open in business?
Yeah, so I'm Kim, everybody again. And so one of the challenges that I want to speak that we faced at Shy Fresh was foundational infrastructure, right? So we had great people come in. As you know, we love to cater to formerly incarcerated people. We like to show them that they can do it, to give them a second chance and encourage them to just get back into their community and do the best that they can. So with that being said, part of our motto at Shy Fresh Kitchen is to create ownership around that, right? But we create that ownership for people that are formerly incarcerated, that never been exposed to a computer, that really haven't had tangible conversations on a professional level, that haven't had any schooling to know how to actually run this business, right? So we was fortunate enough to start while the pandemic was going on, and Upside Down consulting firm was monumental in helping us get Shy Fresh Kitchen up and running. But that piece of infrastructure was made special for Shy Fresh Kitchen. We want that for all worker co-ops to be able to have that type of infrastructure place to go to learn marketing skills, financial structure, governance, operation, and just simply how to make decisions together in a space, right? And that's the thing that we found as we started growing our business out, that was becoming another barrier, not just finding a job, not just finding a tangible place to live and reside, but also that we didn't have the skills that it took to actually run this business on our own. Yeah, we had the idea, we had the gumption to get out there and try to do it, but we needed a little bit more than that, as you can tell by the ecosystem that we are now trying to create consists of upside down consulting firm, jumpstart housing cooperative, and Chef Fresh Kitchen. But we don't really have a way to connect those dots together because we don't really have a tangible piece of infrastructure that can walk with us day by day and grow us out, and so that we can expand and get more people ownership, get more people to be first time home owners. Right now, with our ecosystem, we have $1.4 million, and we have turned that $1.4 million from federal funding into $10 million. So I'm saying that to you all to let you know that it's something that can absolutely happen with the right infrastructure pieces in place, as well as the right finances in place to continue this work and make this something to be done on a national level. Yeah.
Man, I could listen to you talk about Chai Fresh all the time, so I'm actually gonna ask you a little more. So how long has Chai Fresh been open, and how many owners did you start with, and how many do you have now?
Chef Fresh has been open. We actually at our 5-year mark, right? Yeah, we made 5 years as a workers cooperative, and we started with 5 of us co-owners, and we now are at 7 with we have a track in place where every employee that's with us right now is actually 14 of us. Every year, another one will be on the training track to become an owner of Chef Fresh Kitchen alongside with the rest of us. Cause that's the type of wealth, community wealth that we trying to build and keep going strong.
Yeah. Yes.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you much for sharing that. So for all of you, so right now in this moment, as I was saying earlier, you know, the situation is really fluid. There's a lot of different priorities right now that are changing. How do you talk about co-ops? Like, why? If pretend I'm your congressperson. Why should Congress and government be paying attention to co-ops right now? I mean, I think you've already started to talk about it, but like, what are the things that you highlight in terms of kind of the benefits of the co-op structure?
The things that we have benefited from definitely is just supporting programs like shared equity, community wealth building, those type of programs we have definitely benefited from in a way that we felt a need. Nobody could get housing that was working for us, right? They had to go through a lot. It was a lot going on with that situation, and through those programs, we were able to get 9 people ownership, make them first time home owners. And so now they want to know what co-ops is. They want to know what's up with this thing y'all talking about with the co-ops, and you work a place, and I gotta constantly tell them we can't hire everybody at Chef Fresh. The money is not there, but we would love to, and I'm glad that y'all thinking along these lines, because we need y'all to think like this so we can get this community going together, form our ecosystem, and finish building this out for others paving the way. Without ARPA funding, then the blueprint will be ended right there. It will be over and done with, and we wouldn't be able to continue the work that we doing, that we have shown really actually work. So that's one of the barriers we will face.
I would, you know, those are awesome examples, right? And I think that it sort of speaks to the self-help nature of cooperatives, and really co-ops solve a problem, right? In every case, every co-op you can think of, it's solving a problem, right? And so you talked about affordable housing, you talked about, you know, employment, whether it be employment for, you know, the passing of a company succession wise to the existing owners to worker co-ops, or to, in your case, the formerly incarcerated individuals. It's solving a problem. And if you look, you know, larger at, you know, at the rural electric, you know, space, it's delivering power to areas that don't, you know, that wouldn't naturally have investors, you know, chase down utilities in those areas. Affordable housing across the country. It's I think co-ops are solving problems, and they're solving the types of problems that are common in everyday life. So I think in talking to, politicians and, local, federal, I mean, affordable housing, wealth creation, keeping, dollars in the community, jobs, power, healthcare. I mean, you just go down the list. I mean, the co-op ecosystem is really solving society's problems. And in purchasing co-ops keep inflation down. So I mean, like, there's so many elements that kind of point to when you're talking to politicians that that I think stand-up co-ops as a great example of a business model.
Ellen, I know you are really, I know that you're really closely in contact with your congressperson all the time, and so what do you talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I think co-ops are, a way for us to proactively build the kind of resilient, strong communities we all want to see, right? The folks, when we think about, thriving local communities, we want to have those business owners they're in our community, right? And so that's what we're seeing with these cooperative businesses, is that these are the folks that are working there, the folks that live there, that are going to the local schools, they're paying their taxes, they're keeping it circulating right there in that local economy. And so, what politician doesn't want to have a strong, thriving local economy? He wants to keep those jobs. And, I think we can talk about too about the types of education that happens within co-ops, right? These are democratic organizations. And so people are practicing using that democratic muscle. They're learning how to be participative. And so if they're doing that in their business, they're going to go do that, in their communities as well. So I think it's on so many folds. And then, we talk about the need to address things like income inequality. Well, people are building wealth, right? They're owning something. It's not just a paycheck. It's, it's ownership. It's owning of assets and whatnot, and community ownership of assets. So I think on everything else that has been said so far, but all these pieces is why these types of entities are so important to our communities.
I wonder what folks see, and actually I'll pause for a moment. So folks in the room, if you have any questions, let's start gathering those, because we'll go to the crowd next. What do you see as some of the biggest opportunities for the government to kind of intervene right now, or update regulations right now? I know there's a lot of attention on regulations, on tax treatment. What kinds of things are you paying attention to the most?
I know from my perspective, I touched on the personal guarantee, topic on the SBA programs. I believe that will be a game changer. I think that if the SBA programs open up to co-ops in a way that recognize their differences, but recognize their strengths, and do not require personal guarantee, I do believe that would be a game changer for small businesses across the country, right? Small co-ops across the country. There's also a lot of effort that NCB is supporting as well for direct pay low-income housing tax credits. So the low-income housing tax credit program has been a wildly successful affordable housing program across the country, but for rental projects. I think everyone would prefer, I don't think it's a debatable topic. Home ownership is wonderful. And if we can use the successful program of low-income housing tax credits and apply them to cooperative housing in a way that makes sense. Again, we tap into a successful program. It just wasn't necessarily designed for co-ops. In a traditional structure, low-income housing tax credits require an outside investor. And as we know, co-ops want independence. And so those are two areas I think that we could change rules and regulations for existing successful programs to open up the possibilities for co-ops.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say two things. That's definitely renewing funding and making it the funding that's available more tangible, not just for small business owners, but worker cooperatives as well.
Yeah, and I think just to build on why the access to capital is so important. I mean, we know that we've got, we call it the silver tsunami, but so many baby boomer business owners that are retiring, and trillions of dollars worth of wealth that's going to be transitioning. And so, this is a real turning point where if we have the financing, if we have the capital to do it, we can keep these businesses anchored in our communities, and putting money right back into that local economy. I know in Ohio alone, it's like 92,000 firms, that could be at risk at this time, and over 400,000, jobs. So these are not small numbers. So it's like, if we have the access to like the SBA loans without those personal guarantees, these deals have become so much more feasible. Whereas right now we have to be very scrappy to get them to come to fruition. And especially as we try to get into larger size businesses, we really need those types of supports. And then I would just say, we just want to be treated just like any other business sector, right? We want parity, not anything special. Just as we have, small business centers and funding going in to support, the development of all of our small businesses, the same thing with our co-ops. I think if we keep that money flowing and augment that money, we can see so much more co-op development happening. And we've seen just how just the investment just is like tenfold, right? It's just really, magnifies for that local economy and everyone else involved. So.
And on that point, I know everyone in the room here pushes for the rural development cooperative grants. It's not a big number in the relative scheme of federal monies, but they touch so many co-op development centers across the country, and they provide technical assistance to co-ops of all types in all parts of the country, and you can leverage those dollars greatly so I think pushing for the continued approval and funding of that grant is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. So the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops and Democracy Work Institute, every other year we do a census of all the businesses, and we've tracked it. Over the last 10 years, the number of worker co-ops has ballooned. I mean, like comparatively, it's like the field has tripled, and I think a lot of that development is really dependent on the program that you're talking about. So having those dollars, like it's really just a few $1 million, like the investment of a few $1 million turns into so many like really good solid jobs that are building wealth for families. So I'm curious if anyone in the audience has a question that they'd like to ask the panel. Julian.
Hi, Julian from Dowie. Good to see. Thank you so much for sharing. This is a wonderful panel. I'm looking at how it's constructed. We've got like different elements of the ecosystem. We've got developers, we have the TA, the worker owners, and we've got the finance side. In this time when presenting the benefits of co-ops is so important, you really need to create a positive narrative and show how co-ops can, as you said, Casey, sort of solve the problems of society in many ways. How do you feel the three sort of elements that you represent can work together to tell that narrative, to present as a solution beyond doing events like this?
Well, go ahead, please.
No, I was just saying that was a great question. Go ahead.
Well, NCB, Capital Impact, National Co-op Grocers, and I'm sure a few others do a Co-op Innovation Award every year. And I know that Chai Fresh was the recipient of that. So I think, working, some of the larger co-ops, supporting some of the smaller co-ops is important. And it's something that NCB has always done and will continue to do. And, it makes us proud, even though we had very little to do with Chai Fresh. I feel like we had maybe a little, we helped a little, and so it's helping, right? It's helping. And then I think it's, technical assistance providers who, as you just described, I think someone needs to be help, co-op start. And so I think that, and then, we haven't had the opportunity to finance Chai Fresh yet, but, she just told me her sales figures, so that's on the list. So I think that continuum of the three of us really.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback on, I think just working as closely together as we can, right? Because the more we have example projects, where we're cultivating the businesses, we're getting the financing, and we're showing folks, look what's possible with the small amount of resources that we have. I think the more that we show that and magnify that work and tell the stories, I think that, we'll be able to go further together versus all of us in our own silos, so.
Yeah. What they said.
I mean, that connective tissue is why organizations like NCBA, like the US Federation of Worker Co-ops. That's why they exist, to make sure that there is that connective tissue between different sorts of people within the ecosystem. And I think that's how I know all of you, is just like from like going to different events and making sure that we get out of our silos, to just like hear like little tidbits of like what different people's experiences are like. I know I always feel invigorated after talking with Kim, just hearing just like, what does it mean? You know, like what, like all this work, what are we doing? What are we doing this for? And hearing the difference that is being made in the lives of people, like in Chicago, people who are re-entering the workforce, rural farmers who are, you know, like physically so far away from so many people, but are making a really huge difference in their pocket of the world. So, so thank you so much for that question, Julian. I think Mabry, did you have a question?
Man, I had so many questions. Yeah, unless somebody else had a question. Yes.
Go for it.
So my question is, like you guys talked about, like the cooperative model in and of itself is the personal guarantee, right? That's what I'm getting at. And so as we think about going back to our local communities and the people we may have access to, like city council members and things like that, how do we, like, what can we do collectively as representatives or members here to help make that case that this local government in Charlton really it's a better investment to invest in cooperative infrastructure because it is gonna have a better return, right? Because everybody's putting money into business development and economic development and things like that, but as just was displayed on this panel, there's a clear cooperative difference. So how do we make that case, at the local level and with our state legislatures, and what can we do in this room to help us go back and like make that case?
So I'll read it just for the benefit of folks online if they can't hear. So
Oh, my bad.
no, it's okay.
We can hear. I think we heard it pretty well,
Okay, great.
just so you don't waste time. Thanks.
I don't know if you want to touch on that first.
No, you guys first. I'll clean up.
I would say just showing up is the most important part, right? I think all the programs that we think need tweaks and to be reworked or to be rethought, I don't believe anyone sat around trying to create a program that doesn't work for co-ops. I just think that co-ops are a little different. It's not, I think we can educate lawmakers and policymakers on the uniqueness and the strengths of co-ops. So just telling our story, being in their offices when we don't need anything, when we're not asking for something, and just reminding everyone that, hey, that we have this great business model out here that works in all these wonderful scenarios. And I think when something is sort of presented, I think they have that background on what the strengths of co-ops. And I think they'll be more open to, write language in a more inclusive way.
Yeah. And it's like when they say you got your receipts, like you really literally got your receipts that this model really do work, you know what I'm saying, and building stability and dignity. And just, I know for us, for my community, ownership equals leadership. And that's what we trying to build up in our community. So with that being said, like you got your receipts to show that this really is working. We just got to get it out there more deeply than we already are at this critical time.
And I think it's about building a relationship with, folks that are in different political offices of, again, not just showing up when you need someone, but having them come on tours, right? Having them see what this actually means with the people that are in the businesses. And you just don't know where that's gonna go, right? I think if we, they always say that all politics is local, right? So I think it's so important that we do take that time, even though it may be like, man, my city council member cannot impact what's going on, in terms of this nationally funded program, but you don't know when that person may eventually run for that office, right? Like our big champion, Congressman Landsman, he was a city council member for many years, and now he is, serving on the Small Business Administration Committee, and he's advocating for it, right? Because he has an understanding, because he was, working with us for many years. So I think just those relationships, cultivating that, and being there for the long haul is so important.
And I think really helping people to really get it when they're in a different kind of role really helps. Because I mean, I remember the first time, I think Ellen, you and I were in a meeting with Congressman. The meeting, it was a very quick meeting, and we made a list of like, what are 10 things that we want for this congressperson to do? And he was like, okay, here's how we're gonna dress 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I was astounded by the level of engagement, because we didn't have to do the education bit, which is often the biggest hurdle that we run into, is people just knowing and understanding cooperatives. One thing that I know, the Federation has a policy and advocacy council, and that council this year has set a goal of having 10 different cities or regions declare Year of the Co-op. So it's International Year of the Co-op. Why don't we connect that global effort to what's going on locally, and let cities shine, right? Like that's a cool thing for cities to be able to say, we are part of this global celebration of cooperatives. It gives people an opportunity to tout the cooperative model and feel really good and feel really connected. And having cities buy into this is it does not cost any money, and it's just an ask. You just go and talk to your legislator. Shout out to Corey Reedy from the Philadelphia Area Cooperative Alliance that did so much work to get the resolution passed in Philadelphia, and on all the folks there that have been like calling their city council members, engaging with them to get a resolution passed. And now that is an open door now to be able to do things like ask for grant money, ask for engagement in programs, even if it's just education, like including information about cooperatives and newsletters, things like that can be leveraged for a lot of impact. And I'll also give a shout out to one of our members of Slice in New York, who was one person decided to come to talk to all of their city council members and turn into a whole educational program for cooperatives in the city of Santa Clara. So just the ability for like one person who's gonna get up and talk to their representatives can lead to like actual real investment in real dollars. And it's really not that hard. So, or it can be, but it doesn't always have to be. Any other questions from the crowd?
I have a question, and I don't know, maybe Mo or Aaliyah might be best to answer this, but in thinking about how to raise up, worker co-ops, many years ago, I know the bank, National Cooperative Bank, Capital Impact, NCBA, they would go to the Hill and do like they'd get a room, one of those fancy rooms, and then bring in a couple of customers and showcase them. And so that was a way for them, because they're already on the Hill, so they could actually just come there at lunch or whatever and see them. Do people still do that? Is that effective? No, I'm just curious, because I haven't really seen that.
The short answer is yes, but I'll let Leah share a little bit.
It's incredibly effective to connect people directly and to hear the stories like we're doing today, because folks can feel it. They can hear it, they can see it, and policy members can, directly connect with member owners of co-ops. And another great way is through Hill Days, where people go up to Capitol Hill, whether virtually or in person, to engage and have those meetings facilitated as a group. But I'll let Mo.
Yeah, I mean, huge shout out to NCBA Clusa hosted a Hike the Hill Day last October, which I think there were 14 teams of people, which each had like 3 to 5 meetings over the course of the day. So just like a huge deployment. So shout out for the Co-op Impact Conference, attending as an opportunity to just engage with the carcass field, because the amount of effort that it takes to actually like arrange those things, it's not hard to do one, but it's hard to do however many that is, 45 in the course of a day. That is why I have the job that I have. It's why Aaliyah and Joe at NCBA Clusa do their work. We're here to facilitate people talking to the legislator. So I just always encourage people to reach out to us for tools.
Just to tag on to the answer to Anne's question, I noticed Maureen Conway. I'll reintroduce myself, the disembodied voice in the corner, Esteban Kelly with the US Federation of Worker Co-ops. And I noticed Maureen Conway from Aspen Institute is with us virtually. They have been organizing an employee ownership forum, which is on the Hill, literally inside of the Capitol building. And so last year, like, not only did we have members from different cooperatives tell their own story, cooperative developers, cooperative associations, but it was in dialogue with folks from different government agencies, from the Department of Labor, Department of Agriculture, across several different departments. And also we had engagement with senators and several different congresspeople.
Okay.
And that was bipartisan. That was, so that hosting it literally inside of the building
Right,
was
right, no,
exactly
that's
what you're
exactly what
saying.
I was wondering,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that stuff is still happening, and the next one is in a month or two. So thank you to Aspen Institute. Rutgers has been part of, university has been part of organizing that as well. I'm an executive fellow with Rutgers as part of that program. So yes, this is why we have these coalitions, just piling on to Mo's point.
Thanks, Esteban.
Yeah.
I want to, you know, as we get to the end of our time, talk a little bit about like what's at stake here. So, you know, as we've talked about, things are rapidly changing from day to day, in terms of like funding that's available. Well, we talked just a minute about like what would it look like if you did not have federal funding or had no support from the federal government? Like, how do we think that the field might change in the immediate or maybe in the long term? Just, you know, any thoughts just to envision and like just illustrate what is really at stake here?
Well, for Shop Fresh, I think that it would definitely be our ability to scale. And because I say that because it was due to that funding that we was able to step back and learn our business in the way that we have right now today and continue to be able to pay ourselves and our workers. So without that funding, that would mean that we will probably have to get rid of some employees and push ourselves back on the floor, which is absolutely taking 2 steps backwards. So it's definitely imperative this funding to get renewed and for the investments to match the energy that's needed in our community.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it would do is that it makes it so much harder for us to work with the communities, the populations that need it the most, right? Because like that's where the investment is needed to be able.
Sorry. Apologize for my technical.
I always like to be interrupted. It's a dream of mine. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, like, for example, like the refugee groups that we're working with, right? Like we're able to pay them for their time that they're spending to figure out how can I create a cooperative business? You know, what other places can they do where they can actually have paid, you know, even if it's not a lot, but in, you know, 3 or 4 hours a week to say, okay, I'm gonna create a new business where it's gonna sustain my family and not have to depend on social, you know, programs so that are being funded through the federal government. So I think it's like those types of things. I think that, you know, the money that's coming into the sector right now that really does work for co-ops, right, through CDFIs, like if that money went away, I mean, you know, we're not all gonna fall apart, but we're gonna have to be that much more scrappy, right? But as you were saying, that much more energy into just how do we get these businesses the resources that they need? And that is a place where it's actually working, even though, you know, we don't have to have a personal guarantee with a lot of these CDFIs that really get, you know, what we're doing. So I think it just, as you said, it's gonna put us back, you know, a lot of many steps or many years. Whereas, you know, but this is not a partisan thing, right? We all want to see thriving communities. We love jobs. We want local jobs. So so let's put our money where our mouth is and keep these programs going.
And I would say if you believe co-ops solve problems, and if you know, I think there'll be more problems down the road if you don't continue to support cooperatives. And it's not that co-ops are the only types of organizations that solve problems, like the government solves problems, you know, public companies, churches, not-for-profit. There's lots of great organizations that solve problems, but co-ops serve a pretty integral role in some of those. And I think that, you know, the world's complicated and you need all kinds of organizations to solve the world's problems. And I think if funding stops, if co-op, the co-op ecosystem is not supported, then I think that you'll have a less rich ecosystem writ large.
And as we close, you know, there's a lot of people that are tuning in or probably watching the recording. If you could tell people to do one singular thing, someone who is like maybe even not a cooperator, what is like one thing that they could do to take action, particularly with reference to the government? What's the one thing that you would ask them to do?
Talking about just general everyday folks?
Yes, general everyday folks who just, or, you know, let's say like co-op friends who like really want for the model to be spread.
And vote. That's you know, step
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I would say be politically active and make sure that your desires for having a thriving local economy that includes cooperatives is known to the folks that you're electing. So vote and then get engaged.
Definitely come to spaces like this and share your thoughts and be able to receive from the words that's in the room.
Well, thank you so much, all of you. I'm gonna like add my little piece to this, and then hopefully, let's see if I can do this without burning the world down. So
No nuclear codes.
the thing, there's a little typo, but what I would say here is, if you don't know, there is a thing called the Congressional Cooperative Business Caucus. That is convened by NCBA, and it is a group, it's a bipartisan group of legislators at the federal level. You can go to ncba.coop to see the current list of people who are on the caucus. Find out if your representative is on it, and if they are not, encourage them to do so. I think in the last time we had the Eastern Conference for Workplace Democracy, we invited someone to speak, and they reached out to their legislator like that day. That was Rashida Tlaib joined the caucus, I think like the next day. So it's really not, it's not hard. It's not like a money ask. It's not a hard ask. So encourage people to join the Cooperative Business Caucus. Contact your legislators. If you are a cooperator, invite legislators to come and tour. That's their job. That is like, I will say this till the day I die. Government employees are there to serve you. You are their boss. The special person when you are all in a room together is you. So you invite them into your co-op and let them see the great work that you're doing. Make sure that you stay in contact with them and build those relationships. And then finally, make sure to stay tuned at usworker.coop and ncba.coop. Advocacy news flows a lot through there. It's one of the best ways to keep up with what's going on. A little more slide here. Again, International Year of the Cooperatives. Make sure you're tuned into that. Use that as a leverage point to draw more people into the cooperative discussion. I'll leave this up now for some upcoming events from the Federation. But I just want to say thank you so much to Ellen, Kim, Casey for sharing your expertise and being a part of this like kind of candid discussion. I hope is helpful to folks in the room and online. You know, is our deepest wish that people just, you know, just pick up the phone and get involved, because like really at any moment, but especially in this one, I think our ability to organize together and build infrastructure together to fill in the gaps and present cooperatives as a solution is the best way to expand the model. So,
Yes.
thank you so much. Thanks to the people for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next webinar. Have a great day, everybody.